My name is Chetia Hurtt. I'm 43 years old and I'm a trauma survivor. So, a little backstory. I grew up in the city of Pittsburgh, in the Garfield and Lumber area. I graduated from Peabody High School, but I went to Catholic schools most of my life. Growing up, it was me, my mom, and my grandmother. My dad and my mom separated when I was pretty young, so I don't have any real memories with him. I always heard about him and, heard stories about he was this African prince and, I really, I nothing was ever bad said about my dad. But for the most part, it was just me, my mom, and my grandmother for a really long time. And at one point, we lived in Harrisburg. And in Harrisburg, I remember just listening to music, and we were staying with, I don't know, I guess friends of the family or cousins or something. And I remember my mom met this guy. And we stayed for a while. She met this guy. She was like head over heels. And we come back to Pittsburgh. So we moved back to Pittsburgh. My mom is in this really fresh relationship with this guy. She is wholeheartedly involved with him. And for the most part, he was the father figure in my life growing up. And we lived in Lumber at the time. And I just remember it was before I was, I'll say, 10. Before I was 10, times were good. I didn't realize that we were poor and broke and trying to make ends meet because my whole family was around. There was no separation between cousins or friends of the family. Everybody was brothers and sisters. Everybody were brothers and sisters. The elders or the adults of the family, they were so close-knit. They were all best friends. They all fussed and fought, but they all partied and had such a good time. And those were amazing times growing up. And things started to change. I think I was maybe 12, 13. I had a crush on a boy. And I wrote this boy a letter and I was like, oh, one day you're gonna be my boyfriend. I was so excited, And the letter was intercepted. And things changed for me. A time when, I was trying to figure out who I was as a young person going into teenage years, that was blocked. And things just took a turn for the worse very, very soon after. This man that my mom had now married, and I have a new little brother, and things seem to be okay. In a kid's eyes, things were okay. And then I remember one day I was in the living room and my stepfather was laying or reclining on the couch. And I sat on the couch. I'm like, hey, blah, blah, blah. just being a kid. And I guess I touched his arm in a way that I later found out made him feel some sort of way. And as a child, I didn't notice anything. I didn't see anything, out of the way. But I also am not in the mind of a very sick person. Probably about a year or so later, I got the opportunity to go to North Carolina to spend the summer with my stepfather's family. And I was really excited because I always like going down and visiting, and it was a whole new set of people that welcomed me in, and I had more family. And it was so cool because these people knew nothing of me, and he had this new wife and her daughter and their new son, and it was exciting because everyone gave us so much love. So I was able to go to North Carolina for the summer. I was so excited because this is my first solo trip. And I remember a few days before I was going to take my first plane ride, my stepfather said, "Hey, I want to show you something." I said, "Sure, what's up?" He said, "Come on." And he tells me to come in the basement. It wasn't nothing. I mean, the basement wasn't, at that time, a scary place. There was, a CB radio over in the corner, and the washer and dryer were down there. So the basement wasn't a scary place to me down there. So I go down, and the letter that I wrote that boy came up again. And I was so nervous because I was like, I'm going on this trip, and what if they tell me I can't go because I wrote this boy, and I wasn't, I like him, but it's not that serious, So he said, to make sure that I know that you're not going to do anything while you're in North Carolina without us, you have to do something that I know will be, will guarantee that we have this understanding. And I remember standing at the bottom of the steps, and he was sitting on the steps. And I remember just not understanding. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to tell you. I'll get good grades. I'll, do better in the bells because I played bells as a kid. I don't know. Those were the things I was thinking about. I'll do dishes. I didn't know. And he says, lift your shirt. What? Come on. Lift up your shirt. And I said, no, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I just want to go upstairs. And he said, you know what, damn it. I shouldn't have even asked you, And it looked like he was, for a a moment like he felt bad that he had even suggested saying that to me. And then it flipped. And it was, now that I said it, now you have to do it. And I remember him lifting the bottom of my t-shirt. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I literally couldn't move. And I remember him going, okay, that's fine, that's enough. As he pulls my shirt back down. And he moves over and I go upstairs. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I was so embarrassed and so shocked, and I was scared and confused and all this stuff. I was all of that. I was like 13 years old. Now, even though I grew up in Garfield, Larimer area, I was not a street smart kid. Like, I knew some stuff, but I wasn't in a lot of hands-on, hood antics. You know what I mean? I just wasn't at that age. I wasn't. Like, I was still playing like school in the summer. I was still like saving my notebooks from the school year so that me and my friends could play school in the summer. I was still actively playing with dolls, like doing their hair. In a split moment, that was chipped away. It was chipped away. So everything changed after that moment. That happy family that, in my head was normal, it's gone. It was just weird, because growing up, I was the youngest grandchild, the youngest granddaughter from my grandmother. And being that myself and my mom and now her husband and my brother, we all lived together, my grandmother, there was a special place that I held with my grandmother. And she was like, oh, I love my grandmother. My grandmother was the best. But even this, I couldn't tell her, So I get to go to North Carolina, and I, have a great time, and I come home. And now I know things are different. I know things are different. They feel different. Coming home felt different. And it was already hard being that kind of outcast kid because I sounded white. I lived in the hood, but I wasn't of the hood.
Growing up in the 90s, that must have been tough.
Listen, it was rough. It was rough. Especially like my mom was, my mom and her brother and sister were standing in line to make sure that we were able to go to magnet schools. The best schools that they could have possibly got us into, me and my cousins, they were doing those things for us, you know? So we were always bussed. Myself and my cousin that is directly in age with me, we were bussed out. And so we were growing up in the hood, but not experiencing that because where we were. So that already made me different. That already made me different. And I knew it and I felt it. And as a parent now, I understand when your kid is going through all of these different changes and now they understand that they're different than everybody else. So that's just regular being a teenager or becoming a teenager, you know, in those young years.
Trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. And then to have this like wrench getting thrown in is something just it throws it all off. Literally, your brain stops functioning the way that it did before that moment. It changed.
And as a child, I mean, how are you supposed to process something like that? How are you supposed to understand you're still playing with dolls yesterday?
Yeah. Like, I literally learned about an adult situation with a child's mind. And I was not supposed to have to experience that change at all. Not only at that age, but in that situation. So that was just the beginning. Everything, for the most part, looked the same. I felt something was different, but I was hoping that what happened being a kid was a one and done situation. It was a mistake. You know, there's going to be some sort of apology and misunderstanding, and maybe it didn't something. I was really hoping for that. I was really hoping that this was a fluke of my dad was having an off day. From there, it was random times. My mom had an appointment, or my grandmother had to be somewhere. And it was random times. But there's a moment after it happens so often, there's a moment when literally your spirit feels danger starting.
Fight or flight kicks in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was your family during all this? Like, they didn't notice anything weird? Like,
I think that during this time, I still was, the family was still around. You have to understand that while all this stuff was going on with me privately, everything else was going on. Life was still going on. I was still around family members. We're still, as a family, going to family functions as a functioning family unit. So here I am holding on to this incredibly dark and scary and traumatic situation through most of my teenage years. There was just, there were, now as an adult, I look back, there were always times that now I might have been able to say something. But when you have been through